And good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Thursday Live. Good afternoon to all my EST friends, and good evening to all my GMT friends, and good godly morning to all my Australian friends. How are you all doing today? Hopefully doing really well. We are up to speed. I got a few things to show you. I'll show you that jet painting and where I'm at with that right now. Sorry, I'm playing with a kneaded eraser. I'll show you where that is at right now. Today, what I thought we'd do is I have a small ampersand panel that I want to paint. Actually, I want to paint it again. I'll get into that story as we go. So we'll see what's happening with that. I think that's all I got for show and tell. So that's good. So we got a lot to do. So hopefully your week is going well. And yeah, let's turn things around, and I just want to be ready because I want to see what view you guys are going to get. You're going to get some wonky view of the Vision Air Station and part of my paint and everything. So we'll swing this around a little bit so it's less stupid. There we go. I'm seriously loving this Vision Air Station, so much so that I haven't used my big drafting table since I got this. It was originally designed, this Vision Air was just going to be kind of like my live station. I was going to do all the live videos here and then just do all my regular painting at the desk. But I haven't been back to the desk yet, so that's pretty cool. So good morning, Justine. Hello, afternoon. Rick Lotta, what's going on? Hello to everyone. All right, so I'm going to show you some quick show and tell, and then we'll get right into it. I feel like I'm forgetting something. I don't know. We'll figure it out. All right. So here is the update. This is the jet painting that I've got so far. And I've had to unmask this because the last mask of the eagle had kind of pulled off the backing mask here. So I just unmasked everything. I'll remask everything. But this is where we're at right now. So I'm pretty excited. We worked on the engines last week. The very tail end of the jet. What's still going to happen with this is the black parts here are going to have the Vietnam War memorial names on it. So they'll be all along the front side of the jet, and all along the back, the fuselage of the body, and on the tail piece here. On the upright here, on the tail here, there's going to be the POWMIA logo. And depending on space, I think I might sneak an American flag right in here just because of the way the logo is going to work out. These white areas on the leading edge of all the wings and everything, those are all going to be gold leaf, as well as a string of stars will go from right to the front of the cockpit around and then down. So there'll be gold leaf stars there too. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the background yet. This is such a involved painting. I mean, as far as what's going on in it, I have a feeling that clouds are going to just kind of take away from it. So what I think I might do, it's this pale blue right now. I think I might just do a deep blue fade from the top down on it. But I'll figure that out once I get it all done. But that's your update on that. It's coming along strong. So this whole painting, as I'm dumping stuff here. So that whole painting is for Mission Healing Soldiers, which is a nonprofit organization that raises money for wounded soldiers, which is a great thing. So let me jump over here. Jeff, what's happening? Dan, what's going on? Excellent. All right, I'm going to turn on, I do comments at some point too, but we ready to jump in? Am I ready? No, I'll give you guys one more sneak peek before I get going with everything. I've been working on the 543s for Monday, and that's that giveaway kind of suggestion giveaway thing that we do on Facebook every week. So I want to show you this one because I don't like to tip my hand, but I'm having fun with this one. So this is the very first one. What's going on here? Why can't I? There we go. That's what I want. So we had a suggestion for a sexy robot. So when I got into airbrushing, part of the reason I got into airbrushing was Soriyama. And if you're not familiar with Soriyama, check out, you probably do know Soriyama's work. He still is doing a lot of stuff. He's primarily known for making these robotic women. He's in Playboy a lot in the 80s, and just his work is everywhere. So seeing his work, even though part of it is airbrushed and most of it is paintbrush, but still he's known in the airbrush world as kind of the founding father of chrome. So I thought I would do a robot in honor of him. So this is how it's coming out so far. So it'll be a lot of fun. There's a long way to go on this, but it'll be good. And this is one of the 543s. So anyone who was in last week for the suggestion will have a chance to win it. So hopefully it comes out good. If it doesn't, you'll never see it. Just get rid of it. All right. So let's switch gears here. We're going to get everything fired up. There we go. So the story behind today's job. So there is the sunset, and it may look familiar to people because I've done this sunset before on the same size little ampersand panel. So this is the little ampersand panel, so it looks like. And I'm going to put this sunset on it. So what happened was you can actually see the background of it on the magnet. I've already done this painting once, but unfortunately, somehow I misplaced it. And I don't often misplace paintings, but when I do, I do a good job at it. I have no idea what I did with it. And, usually with actual real paintings, I'm pretty good. I don't, they don't disappear like that. I've only lost one razor blade painting, big painting. And I believe that other painting, that razor blade painting, was not lost. I believe it was taken, unfortunately. So I don't have proof, but I have a strong suspicion. So anyway, I lost that one. I've lost a couple 543s. I didn't really lose them. I thought I lost them, but I actually shipped them out. So yeah, so it's not a good thing. You would think I'll lose a lot of them because they're so small, but I really don't. So I lost this painting, and this painting is supposed to be going to ampersand, and you can't send a painting to ampersand unless you have the painting. So that's what happened to it. All right, Cody Adams, what's up, buddy? Trying to say hello as people jump in. All right, so let me get you guys close. So basically that's what we're doing. It's going to be fun because where I used some photocopies before, I'm just going to do this whole thing freehand. I think that'll be fun. Incidentally, let's see if I can do this. Yeah, I can. So here is you got my tablet there view of it, but this is what the actual painting looks like, or the photograph. There's a couple things I'm going to leave out, like that little kind of where the sun is kind of flaring out the clouds there right above the trees, that white area. I'm going to leave that out, and then I'm just going to kind of make up the rest of it. But the silhouette with the trees and everything, it's just a nice photograph. If I remember right, I think this is one of the photographs from Wisconsin when we were there hanging out. So I did do a full-blown painting of this that Marge's mom actually has. So hopefully that'll be a good angle for you guys, I think. Well, we'll see. Trying to do this so I can see comments too. JC, what's up? Steve, what's going on, buddy? Trevor, hello. Yeah, I'm going to try to, since I'm using the tablet, I'm going to kind of jump back and forth between the comments. So if I miss you jumping on, I apologize. Welcome. And I will jump back and forth on the comments as we go. So I'm going to leave this at kind of a more extreme angle, but that's just because you guys are really close and I want to be able to, I got to be able to get around the camera. But we will turn on, what will we turn on? Yeah, we'll do palette cam would be good too. So hold on. Oh, that's that. There we go. Okay, yeah. So no, actually we don't need palette cam because we're not going to be doing palette cam today because I'm not going to be using the palette. There you go. So we can turn that off for now. Okay. I promise I'm figuring it out. All right, so where to start? Let me jump back to the still again. So where to start with something like this? So for me, it's always whatever's farthest back away. So it's back to front and light to dark. That's how I deal with it. So the sky here, the first thing to go in is that really pale blue sky color. And I'm going to put that in first and then work on the yellows and the oranges and block those in. And then from there, I'll start building on all those other colors, like the darker blue at the top, those little purpley clouds, the oranges and all that. So it's the lightest stuff and the farthest stuff back, which is a light blue first, then the yellow, and then just kind of keep building it. And the trees go on last, the silhouetted trees. So so that's basically the marching order for something like this. Gary Shees, what's up, buddy? Here we go. Michael. Yeah, Michael, I don't know what happened to it. And what's going to happen is as soon as I finish this one, I'm going to find the other one, which is not a bad thing. And if that does happen, I'll figure out what to do with it. But it will be nice because this one will be a little bit different just by default. Oh, today's cheers is coffee. So cheers to everyone. Loves my coffee. All right, so for this, I'm just going to kind of, there's no drawing or anything. I'm just going to kind of wing it. So the first color to go on here is that blue color. So I'm going to kind of kill two birds with one stone here. This is a raw ampersand board. So it just basically came right out of the package. But I want to put Autoborn sealer on this. So I could just prime it with Autoborn sealer and then start painting on it. But I'm going to use that Autoborn sealer as that blue color in the background. So I have Autoborn sealer already mixed up here. Do I have a bottle of Autoborn sealer to show you? I do. I have the black one. This is what Autoborn sealer looks like. This is the black, but I also have white, and I have a bunch of other colors too. And this gives me that really, really nice clay finish that I get on everything. So I already have some white mixed up because I use it a lot. Brush. Let's go with the Micron. Can't hurt. All right, so I'm gonna, this is, again, it's pre-reduced already. I just kind of go by the reduction ratios on the label, which is about 10% reducer, so it's fairly thick. Oh, I'm almost out of this. So there's the Autoborn sealer white. And then I should use Autoborn sealer blue, but I don't have that over here. So instead of getting up, I just want to tint this a little bit of blue. So if I use Autoborn sealer blue, I have all Autoborn sealer, which is really nice. And that's what I did on the jet painting. That background, the blue sky, is all Autoborn sealer. It's not the regular Createx Wicked stuff. And what's nice about that is, again, the surface is really like clay-like. You can actually sand it. It powders up. It's great stuff. But for this, it's so small. I don't need much. I'm just going to use some of the Wicked Opaque Daylight Blue. And I actually have that on the palette already. So I'm just going to grab a teeny bit of that just to turn this into that light blue. So a little touch of that on the brush. And that'll give me that blue. So it's 95% Autoborn sealer and just a teeny weeny little bit of blue. So it'll still give me the same surface. And again, on this size, it's not crucial because the Claybord works so well anyway. But again, it just gives me the same surface no matter what I'm working on, which is nice. And again, I'm trying to keep an eye on the comments here. Bill, what's happening? Bill, I'm glad you're painting. It's so good to see you on Tuesdays. That's awesome. All right, so there's your baby blue. So I'm just going to kind of hit the whole thing. And it's just light coats back and forth. What I really should have done is I really should have done this beforehand. Because if this has about 10 to 15 minutes to dry, like I said, you can sand it, you can do just about anything to it. It's still going to work again because it's such a small area, and I'll put this on in fairly light coats. Just want to make sure that, yeah, you just kind of tilt it and you can see the wetness of it, and then when it's dry, you can put on the next coat. So normally, what would happen if, like with the jet painting, if I'm basing that, I'll do a coat and then let it sit for 10 to 15 minutes and then sand it and then put the next coat on. So if I need to have a real solid base coat, that's how I'll do it. I'm going to speed up the process here. I'm not overly worried about this being the perfect surface because it's going to come out really good anyway because it's so small. So just spray it, wait till you stick gloss on it. You just kind of blow air on it, keep air moving across it until that disappears. Yeah, I'm not gonna, I will kind of scuff it up once I'm done with this, but it's not gonna take much. And I apply this stuff just like you would on a big surface. It's a 50% overlap. Now, because I'm working on such a small area, I can use the airbrush to do this. But on like that bigger panel, on the jet painting, that was a spray gun that I used for that. But it's the same way. It's a 50% overlap, and you put it on medium wet, and it works out really well. There's a couple little hairs in here, so I am going to give this a quick scuff. So again, I would normally wait about 10 minutes for that to really set up, but that's going to be dry enough for what I'm going to do now. So I'm just going to take a really used Scotch-Brite pad and just kind of really lightly just brush off any of the nibs and little hairs that got stuck in there. So that's it. Again, if this sat around for 10 or 15 minutes, I could literally take, and I'll do it at the end, I could take 1,500 or 1,000 grit paper and sand that, and it's going to powder off. I will do that in the end, but I'll wait till we get it all on there first. Adrian Ward, what's up? I know, yeah, you guys are a little bit, I think a week or two behind us with the with daylight savings changes, and I try to make adjustments. I was actually away when you guys switched back over, or it ended up the same daylight savings as us in the US, so hopefully that all works out. Yes, try to get on at 6 your time, but again, if it wasn't for Cody sending me messages on what the time is, because I can't go online and check or anything, but he's good about getting to me. Simon and I'm sorry, it was Simon, not Cody. Make sure I get the right time. All right, that should be enough time now that that's dry. So I'm just going to hit it one more time just to make sure I got a good even coat of that. Now that gives me that light blue that I start the painting with. So that's kind of a nice thing. Again, it just really kills two birds with one stone there. All right, so I'm going to let that dry, and I'm going to clean out this brush. Now, and again, the Claybord surface is really great. You can paint right on it, but it has a different absorption type of quality than the paint itself. So the painting will feel different as I work on it if I just start painting on the Claybord. So in the beginning, it'll almost kind of resist the paint, but then as I get more paint on it, it will perform the way I expect it to. So that's what the base coat sealer does. The base coat sealer puts that paint on there first. So now from the very beginning, when I start painting to the very end, it all feels the same way to me. There's no, difference in absorption or anything like that. All right. So that should be good. Yeah, that's really smooth too. I don't have to do much to that at all. Now, if there were little nibs, which happens especially with the spray gun, but I do this with I'll show you, because I have a couple here. So this I'm about to show you, this is the UPO. And even though I strain the stuff, if I tilt it, see that little hair stuck in there, and there's little nibs and stuff like that. So this is the UPO paper. This is what I use for the 543s, and these are all primed. And what I do is I put Autoborn Sealer Gray on all of them. And again, this gives me that same, these will have exactly the same feel to them when I paint on them, because it's the same paint, different color, but same ground coat. But with this, to get rid of all that stuff, and this has been dry for weeks. So what I do is I'll just take a little razor blade, an old X-Acto, and I'll just kind of like scratch off any of the little nibs that are there. And work out with that hair is pretty obnoxious. So I'll just kind of scrape that till it's flat. And again, just kind of run around and grab whatever nibs that are on here. And then when I got that done, I didn't really finish it, but you get the idea. Again, I'll take 1,000 grit or 1,500, and I can literally just sand this. I won't do the whole thing, I'll just do a bit of it, but you'll get the idea. So this just evens out that whole surface, and then I'll jump back to the really used Scotch-Brite pad to kind of get any of the sanding, get any of those scratches out that's left from the 1500. And what I'm left with again is a super smooth, I don't know if you can see it, but if that's the unsanded side, and the sanded side is just like, it's crazy. It's just beautiful. It's perfect. So that's what I do on all of them. I did it on the jet painting. I should do it on this, although I don't really have to, but I will a little bit because there's not really anything on this, but can't hurt. So with this, I'm just gonna I'm gonna curl the sanding pad a little bit so I don't hammer the edges. Because what will happen is if I go flat on this and just start sanding, I'll burn through the edges and I won't have paint there anymore. So I just want to kind of lightly do the edges and concentrate more in the middle. And I'm using a light touch here, but even here, not even what has been like 5 minutes. This is powdering off. This is doing what it's supposed to do, which is great. It's great stuff. And the same thing, finish it up with the Scotch-Brite pad. A good used Scotch-Brite pad is amazing. So this is, originally this was probably 800 grit Scotch-Brite, the gray pad, but now it's like 2000 because it's been used so much. It's so soft, but it's perfect for that final run. And there you go. So we are caught up. All right, how am I doing here? It's going to come out great because you're painting. Ah, Steve, thanks. Awesome. All right, so there we go. So I'm going to use my old sweatshirt here to kind of clean off any dust. All right, and we're ready to go. Jump back to the photograph here. All right, so I've got all, what's nice is I'll jump, come on. Jump back to still here so you can see it. So now I've got all that light blue. So see that light blue on the left-hand side, middle of the left-hand side? That's the blue I just painted in. So now all that's in. I'm not overly worried about the yellow going on the blue because I'll show you how I'm going to deal with that in a second because that's the next step. Again, it's back to front. So really what should happen next is those really faint dark clouds that are kind of in there, those wispy purpley brownish clouds, because they're next, they're farthest back. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to work on the area for the yellow and some of the orange area. I'm just going to rebuild that up. So that gives you an idea what's kind of going on there. But I've got all the blue in now, so it works out really well. So let's get to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab white to start. And I'm going to use this white to kind of start drawing stuff in. So anywhere where the yellow is and a little bit of the orange too. So that's just opaque white. So I'm going to start by kind of setting the horizon where the tree line is because it's really yellow there too. So the reason why I'm doing the white is because when I go to put the yellow in, I don't want it to mix with the blue. I don't want that to turn green. So if I rebase this with white, when I go to put the yellow in, the yellow is going to be really strong. So I'm just kind of going back and forth, looking at the reference, kind of putting in the edge of the trees there, the area behind. And then what I can do is as I get that in, I can start kind of making it more cloud-like, just kind of running back and forth over it and just pumping the trigger a little bit. And that'll give me that kind of cloud-like look to it. I'm not so worried about the really dark parts. So right above, so see the tree line, how it's all bright yellow, and then it turns orange, and then it turns into that, kind of maroony brownish color. That's not going to be affected by the blue. That color is strong enough that it'll just sit on top of the blue. So I'm not really worried about that. What I'm really worried about is the yellow, the bright, bright yellow. If I try to put the yellow over the blue, it is going to turn green. So I don't want that. I'll just give you a rundown of what's going on. Honey, what is happening? Lindsay, what's going on? Awesome. Welcome, welcome. All right, so I've got the kind of the halo around where the trees are going to be. That's going to be bright yellow. And then what I can do once I get that, I can start working on the area where the yellow is, the bright yellow. So I'll just build that up the same way. I'm using the reference just as a guide, so it's not going to be exactly like what the reference is, but that's definitely okay. In fact, it's better than okay, because I know I used like a cutout, a copy to lay out the last one. So this one will be nice because it'll definitely be different than the other one. So if I do find the other one, there'll be separate paintings, which is good. All right, so anywhere where that yellow is, and it doesn't have to be perfect at this stage. It's just, again, this is just to kind of neutralize the blue where the yellow is going to go. And then the last thing I want to grab up top is just kind of throw in that little orange. This is for the orange patch up here. This little patch will just let me get that nice and orange instead of, again, when you put the orange on the blue, it's not so much here because it's really light blue, but if it's orange and blue, it's going to turn gray. So that's drying nicely, so I'm just going to go back in and add a little bit more. I want to be careful not to cover too much of this because the blue does show through on this side. So I want to make sure I leave some of that area too. But anywhere where I know there's going to be yellow, I want to really make sure that that blue is covered up. And it adds a nice composition too. You got this kind of, it's not thirds by any stretch. The trees are really down the bottom of everything, but the whole thing, you know, is really this top section, and you get this kind of swoopy clouds that will bring you into the painting. So it'll be a really small painting, but it'll also have a lot going on in it as far as the dynamics of it, which is nice. Okay, I feel good about that. All right. That's as good. So next step is to hit that yellow, to kind of get that yellow in there. And I'll jump back and see how everyone's doing. There we go. Everyone's saying hello. Love it. Love it. All right. So what I'm going to do next is, again, I either work from the back to the front. Ideally, it's back to front and light to dark. So there are sometimes that doesn't work out, and sometimes you have to do one after the other. For instance, the yellow is really in the front. But it's also really light, so it kind of trumps that. No presidential indictment comments, please. So the yellow will go in next, because then all the other fun maroony colors will take care of anywhere where it turns green. Skies are fun because it's just an exercise in complementary colors and stuff not being able to be next to one another, and, you know, blues and oranges and reds and greens and all that fun stuff. So I love doing good skies. All right, so we'll clean this out. I think for yellow I'm going to use, I want something really bright, so I think I'm going to use just the opaque yellow. But what I'm going to do, because this stuff is pretty heavy duty, so I'll use bismuth yellow because it's just a in-your-face yellow. Unless, well, let's see. No, I'm not going to use bismuth. Because bismuth, what happens is too, I wonder if it'll show you. They both do it. Yeah, I'll use Hansa yellow. Hansa yellow is more of a golden yellow, but the trap with any of these yellows on you know, anything like that, see how on the cap, it's just a little smudge of paint, but see how that looks green? That's what's going to happen on this too. So I got to be, again, the white takes care of that in a big way. But if any of this yellow gets anywhere near that blue, it's going to turn green, and I really don't want that. So just going to concentrate the yellow on where I put the white. If you guys have any questions, yell them out. Or if I do something stupid, which is highly possible, yell that out too. Now for the yellow, for the opaque, it's pretty thick. I didn't show you as I dropped this in, but it's a thick paint. So I do add a little bit of reducer to that, and that's this spiked reducer. So it's 1 part 40-50 and 10 parts reducer. So I had a bunch of that, because this I want real transparent. Mix that up. You don't need the 40-50. I could just I could just reduce this with regular 4011, but I've gotten in such a habit of using that spiked reducer so much with the other paint. I just use it for everything, and it works out pretty well. Again, the binders and the opaque colors now are a lot different than they used to be, so they hold on really well. So you don't really need that 4050, which is why I put it in there for the other line. For the Wicked line, it just, when you over reduce it, it just helps to stabilize the paint and let it stick the way it should. I gotta figure out comments. I mean, I have the tablet, which I'm using as reference right now. I've got the computer, which is near, but I have to slide over to see it. I gotta think, I wish I had like a ticker tape thing just for comments, or a tablet just for comments, which might be the way it's gonna go, because I don't like missing them. All right, so yellow, and I'll just go over everything I just did. Again, I wanna really concentrate on keeping this right on the white. I want to try not to bleed this over onto the blue at all. If it happens, it's not a big deal, but I want to minimize that. Again, this is going to turn into the brightest parts of those clouds. There'll be lots of orange around them and stuff like that too, and so I'll be able to kind of mess with this. Plus, if it does turn green a little bit, that's okay, because all the reds and stuff that will come in after, the red will kind of cancel out that green. Especially along the edges, but it's really the middle that I really want to make sure that I get nice and bright. I'm not worried about details yet. This is all just to tint that so it's all nice and bright yellow. It's a little blowout right there, but it's not going to make a difference. I'll put stuff on it so that you won't see it in the end. Now I can drag this down, and I'll still show you how it'll turn green. I'm going to drag this yellow down in behind where the trees are, just to kind of make sure that I have enough yellow behind the trees. But you can see as I kind of put this transparent yellow on there, it turns this like limey green. So that's what I want to avoid up in here. I just want to make sure that I get, what I'm supposed to get done, something like that. I need to see this, so I'm going to move this down. Come on, man. There we go. Beauties. Beauties, beauty, beauties. Okay, yeah. Make sure I get as much yellow as I can. Good. Now the orange is next. The orange is kind of it's orange mixed with white, so it's gonna. I'm not worried about where the blue is here, where it's gonna cover, because it's gonna cover it really well. But I do want to make sure that I leave a few of those little openings, and you'll see what I mean as we go. So I'm gonna clear out the yellow here, and I'm just gonna switch over to orange. The orange, I think I'm gonna use red oxide. It's one of my favorites. I'm going to switch brushes too. All right. I'm going to switch brushes because thanks to the speediness of Coast Airbrush, I got my order in yesterday, and I got my brand new shiny Iwata Micron nozzle, which I promptly ripped open and installed. So somehow I managed to damage the nozzle on my Micron B. I don't know how it happened. When I damaged the C, I knew I damaged it. It fell, so I knew that was toast, but I have no idea how I damaged the nozzle in this brush. I don't use this as often as I do the C. This is more of a super detail brush. So for the life of me, I don't know how that happened, but it did. And unfortunately, when something like that happens on a brush like this, it's a $50 repair. So, well, it sucks to have happen. It's great when you get it all shiny and fixed again. So that's what happened with this. So it's all back and up and running. Enzo, what's up, buddy? I like watching you paint, Steve, but while I'm here at my desk job getting the itch, paint. Sorry, Tab. Donna, what's going on? And Lee Jordan, hello, buddy. Yeah, sorry about that, Tab. I understand totally. Like I'll be watching Bill at night when I'm done, and I'll immediately want to go down and paint again. So, yeah. All right, so red oxide is the king. I love, love, love red oxide. It's a great orangey color. It looks really rusty here, but it really is a nice orange color. You'll see that in a second. So I'm going to use a whole drop of this because I want this fairly strong, but I'm also going to put white in it, and the white will help to buffer that color against the blue that's underneath. So that's why I'm not, that's a lot of paint. That's why I'm not overly worried about the, where's my white? There it is. That's why I'm not worried about the shift, you know, as I paint in all the oranges that's going to be in here. That's why I'm not really worried about it because of the white. The white will really help with that. All right, let me mix this up and I'll show you what this color looks like. This is too light, but I'm gonna roll with it because again, it'll act more like a primer at this point. It's not as brilliant-y orange as I need it, but that's okay. Just mix this up and I'll show you. This might be too thick too. So that's what we got so far. So that's red oxide and white. It produces this kind of rusty orange color, but it's more brilliant when you spray it out. So you'll see that. I'm gonna reduce this a little bit too, because this brush is, it's beautiful, but it definitely does not like thick paint. It does not play well with really thick paint. So. All right. Steve, what's up, buddy? Here we go. Ah, coffee time. I love it. Yeah, honey, and you missed it. Today's cheers is coffee because coffee. All right. So this whole area, these two blue sections here and here on the right, these are all orange. Let me show you this one more time just so you can kind of refresh your memory. So see, there's a yellow that I kind of put in, and then all that orange is around it. That white kind of glary thing on the lower right-hand side, I'm going to leave that open as kind of a blue area. And then you have all the nice blue area over to the left-hand side too. So I got to make sure I preserve some of that. But what I'm really concentrating on is that the bright orange spots in between. And maybe the orange up on top there in the upper left. So we'll see what happens with that as we go. What else do I got? Excellent. You guys are cool. You guys are cool. So I hope you guys are enjoying the YouTube channel. I've finally got the rundown the way I want it, as far as the content that's going on here. I'm really happy with everything. So now I just introduced all the shorts. So if you are following me on YouTube, every day I'm putting up a new painting as a short. It's just about a 9-second thing. So I'm just going through the whole library and just putting up a different painting every day. So of course the live stream on Thursday is a thing. This is still too thick. That's going every Thursday with the live stream. Tuesday is still Tech Tuesday every week, and then Wednesday is the open studio. So I'm working on the Harley painting, which is around here somewhere. And just getting ready to start the filming on the next open studio, which will be a razor blade painting, which will be a lot of fun. That I'm trying to decide whether I'm going to start releasing that before the Harley painting is done. And the only reason I was thinking about doing that is because the Harley painting still probably has another 16 to 17 hours left in it. And that translates into about 32 more episodes. So that is pretty much the rest of the year. So I don't know that spending 1 year on one painting is a good idea. I'm not sure yet. So we'll see what happens. So you might get more than one open studio going at the same time. So I reduced that a little bit. What I'm looking for is just kind of instant. I want that paint to come out instantly. And it's still not doing it, but I think I'm going to roll with this for a few minutes before I reduce it again. Because what I can do is I can use this to kind of quickly build up the darker or the stronger areas essentially. Once I reduce it to the point that it comes out really smooth out of this brush, it's also going to be really, really transparent. So, so I don't really want that yet. This brush is a beast. Oh, I love this brush. So I had one of these brushes. It was actually given to me a long time ago, and it was always in rough shape. It never really performed the way it should. So I got this one last year, and it is everything that I could want. It is just a absolutely brutal detail brush. I mean, it's just so fine, so controlled. Really, really is one of my favorite brushes. What I am going to do, though, is I might change the angle, get you guys a little bit closer here, because how am I going to do this? If I do, let's see if I can do this. If I get you guys, I can't get you guys dead on because you'll be in the way. The camera will be in the way. That's a little bit better. You guys are more at an angle. I mean, less of an angle now. Did they stop production on that brush? Steve, I don't think they did. I got mine last year. It's still on the website. I hope they don't. You know, I hope they keep it around. The Takumi, the side feed, has gotten so much attention over the last year since it was announced. The Takumi has the same nozzle size as this brush here. So it's a 0.2 or 0.18 for the micron. But I just love the gravity feed cup. I love the way that the gravity feed kind of works with brushes. I have a side feed. I have a side feed micron. It was actually my first micron, but I don't really use it that much. I just really like the way that the feed, the quickness of the feed of the gravity feed works. So I hope they always have it around. But the way these brushes work, I mean, like I said, I still have my first Micron SB, and that brush I got in the early 90s. So that brush still works fine. Like I said, it's just the Micron B that I inherited was, like I said, it had had a rough life for sure. The gentleman that owned it was a sweetheart of a guy, but he was definitely more of a kind of a rough and tumble painter, I guess. So when he was done with doing like really super fine detail stuff, he, like I said, he gave me his Micron B. And again, at that, like I said, at that point, it had been through a lot, so never really sprayed the way it should, I guess. So it was fun to get this one, for sure. And it's a kind of a, you know, I don't know. It's a personal story, the way I got it. But yeah, essentially one of my uncles got this for me, which means a lot, so. But yeah, it sprays like nobody's business. It's crazy, even with this super thick paint, then super thick for this brush. It processes it really, really well. So as I'm getting into these details now, I don't want this to be like a total diagonal line. I want it to kind of swoop over. So I got to keep that in mind as I'm working on this. I'm looking at the reference, and the reference doesn't really do that. But I really want this to kind of not just come in at an angle. I want it to come in large and then kind of swoop out it like this. So that'll help, you know, kind of draw people into the painting. Where in the actual photograph, it just kind of runs right across. But see how the top of the clouds there in the middle of the panel, they kind of swoop like that. They kind of swoop up. I want them all to do that, especially down the bottom. So again, artists, you know, whatever. This is Drew's favorite. Yeah, Drew is side feed. He is all about the SB. His SB, man, that's cool. If you ever get a chance to see, like I know he's posted pictures of his old brush, the brush he uses all the time. The chrome's all worn off, and it's an amazing thing. But yeah, as far as nozzle size, it's the same as the SB, the one that Drew uses all the time. Really what I think it boils down to with the way that the paint feeds onto the brush, I believe it just boils down to personal preference. Some people just get comfortable with one, and that is certainly what has happened with me. I just became comfortable using gravity feeds all the time, and that's what I gravitate to. See what I did there? Oh, I know. Stop. All right. So again, I want to leave. Yes, please stop. I want to leave that some of that blue right there. So I just got to kind of decide what I'm going to save. And I could do this with the orange as well. This is kind of a maroony color in the end, but I can base it with this orange. And what's nice about that is it'll help to neutralize that blue where I don't want it. When I go to put the red on it, you know, you'll already have orange there, and it'll really, really translate well. All right, so I want to kind of get that swoop going. So in order to do that, I gotta start working on it over here. So you can see how bright orange this is, even though it's red oxide. That's kind of what we're looking for. It works way better than, I mean, this is a great color. You know, any of the straight up oranges like Pyrrole Orange. This is a great orange, but it's so like, well, it's not a primary color, but it's a secondary color, but it's still extremely bright. So if I do that on here, I won't get those really deep rusty oranges. I'll just get this brilliant orange. Sometimes that's what you need, but for this, because I want to keep it more natural, like I said, I find I grab that red oxide way more than any of the other oranges. And the same holds true with yellow. I know I've talked about this a million times. Detail yellow ochre is really one of my go-to yellow colors. It's just a nice natural yellow color without being too bright. It can get bright. You can see it in the label there. But it can also give you these kind of really nice browns as well. So I like this a lot. And the yellow oxide doesn't tend to shift to green. I don't have any on the cap here, but you can see it. It looks brown right there. Or if I show you the same thing again on the yellow, it turns green over the black. So that happens a lot with these primary yellows. And again, it's something you can adjust, but if you don't have to, why do it? All right, still keeping it kind of loose, using that Mike LaValle, you know, loose to tight mentality. Just keeping it, you know, well, I mean, I say I'm keeping it kind of loose, but again, this is only a 2-inch panel, so everything's tight, but you know what I mean. I'm not worried about see those really bright yellow clouds kind of near the bottom, and the really bright yellow edge. I'm not worried about that yet. That's the final, it's the final layer. That's the real tight details. We're just trying to get everything mapped in right now. This orange, I mean, the red oxide has enough red in it as well that it will, I'll show you down here. So see how it turned kind of that lime green? If I really go over this lightly with the red oxide, and it doesn't matter because all this is behind the trees anyway, so I'm not ruining anything. But if I go over that green with the red oxide really lightly, it will neutralize that green as well. It'll shift it back to that warm color. And the more I put on, the more it'll shift away. So that's extremely handy up in this top section where that yellow maybe got too close to the blue. So again, there's enough red in this to switch that green back to the orangey reddish color that it should be. So again, that's the reason I wasn't overly worried about having that yellow get onto the blue. I just didn't, I want to make sure that I leave some of the blue there. All right, it's looking good. I'll check for questions, see how you guys are doing. Is that the same orange as the tea bucket? So yes, no, Gary, actually, because the tea bucket painting is brilliant orange, I used Pyrrole Orange for the base of that. That's a perfect example of using like this color. That color in the car was supposed to be like knock your head out orange. This I probably use this in the shading and shadowing just because it works so well. But to get that, you know, orange color, there's no other way to go than to go with one of the primaries or secondaries that they have. La, 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 la. Just got all the parts for my new side feed. It came broke. That sucks, Michael. I'm glad you got the parts for it. Yeah, I have two. My very first real airbrush, no, my very first airbrush period was a Iwata side feed, the SB. That was my very first one, and that still works too. Every once in a while I take it out and mess around with it. Yeah, just, I mean, that's all I was using with the side feeds for the longest time. And as I bleed this red oxide down onto the yellow, it just makes this really, really nice bright orange, which is perfect. Excuse me, I get the burps. I had apple pie for breakfast. It wasn't the best choice, health-wise, but couldn't resist. All right, so last thing I'm going to do before we're going to be bouncing around a lot, and that's okay. I'm going to kind of lay in the orange for this little group of clouds up here, just because the next step is going to be to darken the sky. So I want to make sure I have some of that orange already laid in there, just so I know where I'm going with it. So I'm just going to lightly go over it. Again, the thing that should happen is the orange mixed with the blue should make a gray, but these are still transparent enough, and I have that white base there that stays orange where it should. All right, so I'm not going to clean this brush out. I'm just going to put this brush aside because I'm going to switch to the deeper blue. So let me jump back to the photo so you can see it. All right, so I've got the most of the orange mapped out right now. I've got the yellow in, but now at this stage, since I've done the brightest colors, the yellow, I have to jump back to the background again to kind of get that fade, the blue fade in before I go too much farther. Because if I put in all those clouds, like the orange bright clouds in the upper left-hand corner and all the little detail clouds, if I go and spray over the whole thing with a dark blue, it's going to kind of get lost. So I'm going to do this first so it'll kind of stay in there and be seen. So I can use another brush for that. I'll use the other Micron, the C, which is my go-to brush. Don't feel bad. Oh, nice. Michael had cake for breakfast. Franz, what's up? Oh, don't worry about it, Franz. I'm the king of typos, so you're good. All right. For the blue, what am I going to use? I should use blue violet. I can use cobalt blue. Cobalt blue is another favorite of mine. Again, it's a complex blue. It's just nice. This is detailed cobalt blue. If I show you Wicked blue, for instance, this again, it's just a primary blue. It's nice. It's a beautiful color, but it is literally out of the bottle. You know what I mean? It's just really, really bright. The cobalt blue has a little bit of violet in it. It's just a good color. The other thing that happens too a lot with the Wicked blue and phthalo blue, opaque, I can't find it now. This has kind of a greenish cast to it anyway. So that's definitely not what I want here. I want more of a violet cast to it. And the cobalt blue does a good job at that. Blue violet also does a good job of that, but it also has a lot more violet in it, so I don't really want that. So I'm just going to put a little tiny drop of paint on the side of the cup there, and I'm just going to kind of add a bunch of reducer to it. I want this really, really transparent. I want a lot of control over this. Mix that up. Can't believe I lost this painting. What the hell? Unbelievable. Somewhere around here. I don't know. I even have the frame for it. I started working on the frame for it and everything. I was getting ready to check everything out and make sure everything was good, and I completely couldn't find the painting. It's amazing. All right, so there you go. So this is still really blue. So with this, I'm going to kind of concentrate. Again, what I'm going for is that blue fade at the top there. So that's what we're kind of dealing with. And it's not super profound. You'd think, you know, the sun's already down here, but the sky, when you just isolate the sky right there, it's light like daytime, you know? You would think sunset, everything's super dark, but it's really not. It takes a while, you know, a few minutes after this to really get that deep, deep blue. And then by that time, you lose the yellows and the oranges in the clouds. So what I want to do is I want to not go crazy on this. I just want to get enough of this. And super important with this blue, I don't want to get on the yellow. So if I get this blue on the yellow, we're going to jump right back to the green. So really all I'm doing is just kind of concentrating on the upper side of this to give me that little bit of a blue fade. So I could have done this before the yellow to be safe. Like when I did the light blue, I could have done this stage right here. Probably would have been smart. But I never said I was smart. I am going to emphasize the blue just a bit more than the photograph. Again, I'll jump back to the photograph to show you. So I'm about there right now where the photograph is. So I'm going to push this a little bit more just to give it a little bit more interest and to hold up a little bit more against all the really sharp maroon details that are going to be coming in. Again, I want to stay away from that yellow like the plague. I don't want to get any of that blue on there because this color on that yellow will turn bright green, and I definitely don't want that. That looks good. I'm going to leave that because what I can do later on, I can still make adjustments to it. Like if I get the whole painting done and that needs to be a little bit darker, the blue, I can do that. I can make small adjustments to it. I just can't make global adjustments to it. Like I can't really, like if I didn't put that blue in till the very end and had all the details in and I spray that blue on it, they're guaranteed the blue is going to get everywhere. And I don't want that. But if I just have to like tint it a little bit more blue, then I can get away with that at the end, which is nice. What else did I miss? Steve McCready, is there an expiration date for Createx or a good indicator of how it goes sour? I don't have a lot of experience with the waterborne paint. Yes. So theoretically, actually, I have bottles of paint that are numbers of years old and will still work. So while they do have a shelf life, I don't know what that shelf life is. Now, the way you can tell, though, that paint is kind of not... What happens is, Steve, it starts drying in the bottle. Do I have an old one here to show you? Yeah, I do. Okay. So this is a really, really old bottle of red oxide. Really old. This, I don't even know how old this is. This has got to be at least five years old maybe. So first off, what happens is it settles down the bottom. You can see that. You can see the pigment separating from the rest of the paint. That in itself isn't that bad. But what happens is once there's a lot of air in this bottle like there is, the paint will start thickening up. So that's how you know it's really not usable anymore. You have to add a bunch of reducer to get it to really flow the right way. That's when it's worth just chucking, you know, that bottle of paint. I don't know why I still have this bottle. I have a brand new one right here. Actually, let me zoom out a little bit so you can see. So this is a brand new bottle. And actually you can tell, look at the labels on them. This is super old. But like I said, if I try to pour this one out, the old one, it's going to come out like honey. It's really thick, like cold syrup. It's just the paint is drying inside the bottle. It's just setting up inside the bottle. Once it starts doing that, that's the thing I find that really affects the quality of the paint. Not so much that if a sealed new bottle was on the shelf, they seem to last a really, really long time. But once they start curing, once they start, you know, the paint starts evaporating, it's tough to bring it back. It'll be grainy. It just won't work very well. So that's all I can tell you, really. I could use this paint. I really could pour this out and add some 40-50 to it and get this to work. But yeah, there is a shelf life on it that way. But again, I can't tell you how old this bottle is. The Createx might be able to by the by the label. I think it's the old label. So, and some colors set up a lot faster than others, like the browns and stuff. They get thick really fast, or faster than the other colors. Reds and blues also do the same thing. They get gummy in a way. So Michael still has bottles from 2003. Yeah, that's it. Oh, thanks, Steve. Awesome. I came and bought some really old Createx with the old label, all the pigments curdled up. Cool collector's item. Yeah, in fact, Marge, I don't have a bottle here. She has a whole set of the original labels. It had this funky white scroll type lettering on it. So she has a whole set of those. She obviously doesn't use them, but that goes way back. That's like 2000s, like when they started with Wicked. So yeah, but the paint itself is remarkably stable, holds up really, really well. All right, I've got the blue in. That's fantastic. Now let's see what we got next. Yeah, next I'm gonna, so see that like darker maroon color that's behind the orange and the yellow? I'm gonna start throwing that in, because what's gonna happen now, again, those tightest details, the really bright yellow spots in the clouds and the really tight details on the orange, those are actually the end of it. They're the last things to go in. So this kind of maroon clouds that are going on in the background, those darker clouds, I'll put all those in. That way the final stage will just kind of stand on top of everything. So again, back to front or lightest to darkest. Those are the two ways to go. You can put light on after dark. It does work, but it works better if the lights go on first, because you don't have as much color shifting and all that fun stuff. So we're going to get all those dark base clouds in. Again, could I put all these in first? Yeah, probably, but it's okay. What? Franz, no electricity for 12 days? What the heck? Shannon, hello, buddy. What's going on? Franz, it stinks. I know, with all the storms that have been rolling, the spring storms that are rolling through the center of the United States, I know a lot of people, even around here, still don't have power. We've been really, really lucky. Really lucky. All right. So for this, I'll switch back while I'm mixing this up. So for that color in the background there, I'm going to base that off of red oxide as well. It's going to be a little bit of red oxide and a little bit of black. Now I like the black because the black is a real warm black, the opaque jet black. If it was the old Createx black, the old Createx black has kind of a violety greenish cast to it. No, not really green, but more violet. It's not as warm brown as the new one. So I would have to adjust that. But for this, I can use the regular black in here. So I think, do I have? No, that's not going to work. I was going to use the this color, but I can't because it has white in it. That's not going to work for me. So I'm going to clean that out. Since I want a little bit of control with this, because these darker colors, these darker clouds are actually going to be kind of the finish of them. I'm not going to go much farther into these. They'll be as detailed as they're going to get. So use a brush that can handle that type of thing. Yeah, seriously, Franz, I hope you get your power back. That's messed up. All right. So again, we'll go with red oxide to start, just a drop of that. A drop of that is going to be too much, which is good. So just, again, I usually mix on the side of the cup. I put the paint right on the side. That way it keeps the real thick, heavy paint from collecting at the bottom and makes it harder to mix. So then I'll put the thinner paint on the lower, just in the cup. So this is reduced black, so I'll put a few drops of that in. And I have a feeling I want a little bit of red, but I want a little bit of red. So let me put the reducer in here first. Where'd that go? Oh, it's sitting out on the bench. Okay, so I'm going to put the reducer in first. And again, this needs to be really transparent because I want a bunch of detail with this. I want a lot of control. And then to mix it up, I'm just going to grab a little bit, and I turned off the palette cam for you, but all I'm doing is grabbing a little bit of the red directly out of the palette. So now I can grab that little bit of red oxide on the side and mix all this together. And what this should give me is just a really, really rich brown between the red, the black, and then the orange red oxide there. And that's what I'm looking for, because I can shift this. I'll switch to the, yeah, this is a really nice brown. Okay, what's going on there for real is it's got that maroon in it, but again, I'm basing all this in first with the brownish color. The brown will really blend well with the orange that I've already put on. It'll be a nice base, and then as I kind of push that over into that violet color, all I have to do is tint it. If I started out with the violet color, it would, it wouldn't mix well with the orange. It would in a way, but it would still be pretty harsh. This brown will really give me, it will really give me a nice transition between the other colors. So make sure I got this here so I can see what I'm doing. Yeah, that's what I want. So I'm going to test this out in this middle section right down, this little section right here, because there's a lot of that color right here. So that way I can kind of see if it's going to work here, and if it doesn't, there's so much of it there that as I make adjustments on it, it'll just blend it in. So like for instance, it seems like it's too dark right now. And that's a good thing to figure out right there, because now, like I said, I can blend it in. So that's too dark, or it might be, it might not be too dark. What I'm going to do is I'm going to back flush this real quick. So it might be also that the black is just at the bottom, like it was when I poured the black right on the bottom of the cup. So I might be seeing more of the black. So I'm going to back flush this real quick. Just kind of put a cloth over the end of it and then just pull the trigger back very slightly. And it'll bubble back in the cup, forcing all that black to mix in. And I say pull the trigger back very slightly because if you haven't done that yet, and you do that really hard, it'll force all the air back at once, and you'll be wearing it. So you don't want that. All right, let's see what I got now. Again, it's a good spot to test it right here, because there's so much of it going on. And how do I feel about this? How do I feel about this? It's still a little bit too dark, but I know what I'll do. So I've got a bunch of that in there. I'm going to dump a little bit of it out, and I'm going to reduce it even more, because I like it. It's probably a little bit too dark, but it might just, by adding some reducer, and this is reducer with 4050. It's a little bit stronger, so there's only one part of 4050 to only 5 parts of reducer. So it's a little bit thicker. It'll make the paint more transparent, but again, it'll still give me a bunch of control over it. See what we got. Coffee. No, Steve, load me up. More questions. Are you getting your brushes from Blick or a better source? Steve, so I've gotten the Micron B here I got from Coast Airbrush. I think Iwata has kind of a price control thing like Apple. I think there's a minimum price that a dealer can sell their brushes for. But I do a lot of shopping with Dick Blick. I've never bought an airbrush from them, and it's for no other reason than like I usually buy them from Coast anyway. Yeah. All right. Try this again. What I'm curious to see is how this, come on now. What I'm curious to see is how this looks on the blue. It doesn't have to, it just has to play nice with the blue. It can't, what I'm looking for is I want to make sure the brown doesn't turn green. And again, this is a really, really good spot to be able to kind of mess with this. It also feels a little bit cold. Yeah, I think I'm going to add a little bit more red to it. So it feels kind of green, not greenish, but it feels cool, and I want it to feel really warm. So I'm going to grab a little bit more of the red off of the palette. It won't take much because this red is really strong. So that looks like a lot of paint, but really I've paletted it all out. So there's just a little bit of paint there, but I'm going to drop that in to give me more of a rusty color, just a little bit. See how that works. And again, what's nice here is that area there is really dark anyway. So by testing it out here, I can really get a good feel for it without committing to, you know, putting it out in an open area. That's not good. I want to make sure that doesn't keep doing that. So I'll put a couple more magnets on that. There we go. See what the red looks like now. With the red, I mean. Yeah, that's nice. That's a lot warmer. And that'll be nice because that will allow me to get that maroon, a little bit of maroon in there too. Actually, is this too red now? Oh, okay. It is. It's probably a little too red now, but we're gonna roll with it. I think it's gonna work. I just can't put it everywhere where I want to. I'm gonna have to kind of be a little bit more selective with it. But again, this is really super, super reduced right now. So it'll let me get like these really super fine, tight details. And that's kind of what I'm going for with this section right here now. Because the farther I go with these clouds, the tighter they're going to get and the more, you know, the more defined they'll get. And it's nice. It's even though it's on a super small scale, it's the same way that I would paint if I was doing this bigger. You know, I just kind of put in these big washes of color to kind of get things laid out, get the drawing part of it done, and then work on the details. You know, it's like a building process. It works out really, really well. So it works the same way on the small scale too. It's just that, you know, everything feels tight. You know, everything feels like it's details, even the kind of blocking in stuff. All right, so what is nice about this color, even though it's a little bit too red, when I go to like blend into the yellow, it produces this really, really nice orange. So I am going to roll with this color for a little while and see what happens. And mixing up a color that isn't exactly what you intended can always be a good thing. You know, it adds a level of complexity to it when you put in a color you didn't really intend and then you have to kind of adjust around it later. To see that poking around through there it just really adds a lot of complexity to it. And that's, I don't know, I like that. I gravitate more to paintings that have a lot going on with the colors. That's not just, you know, out of the bottle orange or out of the bottle red, or like if I can tell what color it is, it becomes not as, I don't know, it's not as exciting for me. But if I can't tell what color it is, that's just a really cool thing. Oh, I do like this. This is working out. It's working out. So I'm going to leave that blue spot in the middle there. I like it. But down as it comes down in here, as it kind of curls back up, this area is where I'm going to get that kind of swoop. I try real hard not to get any blowouts here like I just did. Ultimately, like this little, I don't know if you can see it right there, right on the corner there, the red kind of blew out there. I'll put a bunch of trees in front of it. It's not going to make a difference, but I don't want a ton of that, you know, because I don't want to keep fixing it. Steve, I'm dedicated to Coast Airbrush. I was asking about your paint brushes. Oh, I was at Michael's Art Supply and I couldn't find the type of brushes Marge is talking about. Yeah, Steve, Michael's and Hobby Lobby don't sell. They're moving away from all brand names, which is unfortunate. They're really becoming more of a hobby craft type store. So where they used to have like all these brand names, they're switching to their own private labels, which frankly are junk. So yeah, so for the Winsor Newton brushes, for the ones I use all the time, these things here, I go through Dick Blick for these all the time. This one doesn't even have a label on it. So yeah, so anything brand name like Winsor and Newton, this guy right here, I'll buy from Dick Blick. That's primarily what I buy from them. I occasionally get paint from them when I'm, placing an order anyway, but for the most part, it's Coast. Tabs. Working with smaller amounts of paint in the cup has been a good lesson I learned from you. Awesome, Tabs. That's great. Yeah, I mean, working with just a drop of paint is so nice because it never goes bad. You either run out of it or you just lose a drop of paint. It's not like before when I'd have these, literally I'd have a wall full of baby food jars with all these different colors in it, and I'd mix up way too much paint and it would just sit there and I'd never use it, and yeah. Plus, I'm Createx's worst customer. It'll take me 2 years to go through a bottle of paint. This area right in here has a lot of that like really bright type of detail. So I'm going to leave that alone for now. Just keep working on the outside areas, and then we'll deal with that as we get closer. I mean, I can kind of get some of the edges of that, but we'll deal with that after I get the rest of the background in. So there is something to be said for doing a painting twice too. Whenever I do this, like I don't often do a painting 2 times, twice, but sometimes it happens. So I know for a fact that this painting here will be better than the first one I did, just because I can avoid now a lot of the problems that I had with the first one, because experience teaches you a lot. So with the other one, I remember that I blocked in a lot of the clouds with a paper cutout, which is fine, but what happened was it was hard to get back from that. That hard edge took a long time to kind of bury, essentially. So now that I remembered that, I just figured we'll do the whole thing freehand and we won't have to run into that problem. All right, so same thing in here. I'm kind of weaving in this orangey red color, but I'm leaving little bits of blue. So that's, again, why you do the background first. If I had to go and spray those little bits of blue in after, it would shift all the clouds around it. It would make them look fuzzy. It just wouldn't look good. But for here, it's just one and done. It's one shot and it's done. What's going on top of that? I don't know. I'm making it up as I go, kids. What could go wrong? Yeah, this color is working out great on the blue because of all the red in it. When I get it out onto the blue, the red plays really well with the blue and turns into that kind of violet-y color. So I am happy with this one. Even though, like I said, originally it seemed a little bit too red. I think it's working out. So hopefully you've been enjoying the Tech Tuesdays too. I try to mix it up now between a piece of equipment and maybe a small rant. The rants have been fun because it's, a lot of things that either I've heard over the years or still hear, and it becomes more of it's totally personal, point of view. None of it, usually, there are very little facts, I guess. It's all personal preference or personal opinion. But it's fun to be able to kind of voice that in case someone's having a similar issue with the, the rant that I happen to be talking about. And if it helps some people out, then that's great. And if it doesn't resonate, that's still good, because again, it's just, my dumbass opinion. So I have enjoyed those quite a bit, which is good, because originally Tech Tuesday was just supposed to be about stuff, materials that we're using. But I've really enjoyed doing some of the, the fun rants. So I brought that up because if you guys have any suggestions for any of it, for Tech Tuesday or for the live feed on Thursday, if there's something you want to see, just let me know. Just you can, if you're watching this after the fact, you can drop it in the comments. I will try if you do it in the live chat. Unfortunately, I haven't figured out with YouTube how to see the live chat after the fact. I don't even know if you can. But if you make me a suggestion in the live chat and I don't see it, just send me a message. So, Franz, I'm glad you like it. I'm expecting some people not to, and that's okay. You know, it's like everyone has different things going on and a different way to look at it. But my hope is that it'll resonate with, the people that have either been through it or, can relate to my particular twisted point of view. So that's my hope anyway. And again, I preface it by saying it's, all that stuff is an opinion, and most people, everyone should take it for what it's worth, no matter what, whether it's me or anyone else. I mean, my biggest gripe is anyone who's saying that, it's like, oh, this is it. This is actually the facts. I'm like, well, that's great. But in art, that's rarely the case, that there are, anything more than opinions. All right. I am super happy with this color. I was originally not happy with this color. I thought it was too red, but it's working out. And like all Createx products, once you add the reducer to it, or the 4050 or 4050 and reducer, generally, if you let the paint sit for about 10 minutes, it performs better. So we are right at that point with this paint now. So it went from kind of spraying okay to now it sprays like great. And that's a lot of fun. It makes this a lot of fun now, because it where it's kind of maybe kind of chunky and maybe blowing out a little bit at the beginning when I first mixed this up. Right now it's spraying like butter, to quote my New England friends and family. And the problem is I'm tempted to do too much with this. So what I mean is this orange, or this yellow field here, has a lot of orange that I'm going to mist over. And I should do that with that bright orange, because I want that to be like really bright orange as it transitions. But I want to use this color to do that. And I can, but it'll be more of a muted orange, and I don't want that. So I have to resist the urge. I have to resist the urge to spray this everywhere now, because it's working so well. So this area now that I'm painting right above, this streak of yellow here, I'll show you one more time. That is where, see the really tight detailed puffy yellow clouds are right there in the center, lower center there. So that's what I'm kind of working with right now. I'm doing everything around that, and this color is going to allow all that really brilliant yellow to really stand up. So I just got to kind of paint as much in around it as I can, and then we'll work on get more details on that. But already it's starting to come together. It feels good. It feels real good. You can also see too, like I said about the blue on the top here, because I'm starting to get all these darker colors in now, that blue fade on the top isn't nearly blue enough, which is fine. I can just hit it a couple more times. But again, if I did all this and then I really had to turn that blue and hit this a bunch of times, there's a good chance that blue would get onto the yellow and really start to cause some problems. So the way I describe it is, I didn't mean to do that either. The way I describe that is really like juggling. It's like you're trying to keep all the balls in the air at the same time. That's what this is. So I got it to the point where I needed that a little bit more blue, so I hit that, but then I'll have to hit it again later on. For me, it's rare to kind of get something nailed. Like I see like artists like Drew Blair that have color mixing to an absolute high art, and the way he can paint the exact color where it's going to be, and then that's pretty much it. I know he does make a lot of adjustments as he goes, but to really nail that color and then just to move on, I'm envious of that. I really think that's it's a powerful way to paint. It's just that I don't do that. So So again, I had a little blowout there at the top, but I just turned it into another cloud. There are no mistakes, only happy accidents. I'm posting some of my paintings on an artist group, and they have positive feedbacks regarding airbrush work. They're mostly oil painters. Yeah, Franz, the days are different now. I mentioned this in the freehand rant, I think. Did I? I don't know where I mentioned it now. But yeah, when I really was getting into it, I was doing a lot of aviation art. And I mean, Drew was great because Drew opened the door for a lot of airbrush artists who were doing aviation art. But all the hardcore aviation guys that I was involved with at the time were all oil painters or acrylic painters, and there was in their world there was no place for the airbrush. It was like you use it for highlights on a canopy. I was told this. You use it for highlights on a canopy and maybe, you know, some clouds, and that's it. Other than that, it's not the tool to use. And I'm like, what? So fortunately, those days are past, I think. You know, I mean, I've exhibited in a lot of great places, and while the airbrush is still a novelty to a lot of traditional artists, meaning artists that use paintbrush, it's definitely not viewed as a cheat like it was before, which is ironic because if anyone who's using an airbrush knows how difficult it is to get it to work the way you need it to work. So for someone to come along and say, oh yeah, that's cheap, you know, it makes it easy for you, has never used an airbrush. It can be the most picky, obnoxiously hard, temperamental, it just can be brutal. So fortunately, I think those days are, you know, slipping past. I mean, look, right here where we are in Ohio, we have the Butler Museum of Art, which is a great museum, and they have Peter Mayer's work, and Peter Mayer is one of the premier automotive painters and uses airbrush and spray guns and whatever else he needs. And so for him to be there, yeah, it's a good thing. It always, I don't know, it always confused me that the airbrush wasn't considered as traditional as something else. Certainly the airbrush has not been around as long as a paintbrush, but it's been around longer than acrylic paints. So acrylic paints weren't readily available commercially till the 50s. Airbrush was invented almost 100 years before that, you know, late 1800s anyway. So yeah, that's a rant I haven't had to pull out in a while. The airbrush is a crutch, or airbrush is is a cheat. Thankfully, that's not a thing as much anymore. Oil painting with airbrushes are fun. I know Marissa uses a lot of oil paints. I'm not sure how much she airbrushes the oils with. That can be a dangerous thing because of it's just about as dangerous as spraying automotive paints because of the solvents, but a lot of the pigments in genuine oil paints are extremely hazardous. Just to use, never mind to spray. I mean, if you spray like cadmium or cobalt, you're asking for a lifetime of hurt. But fortunately, artificial pigments have come a long way, so you don't have to necessarily get genuine pigments all the time. I know that was a big thing with watercolor and gouache too. I still was in fear for the longest time because I bought a tube of cadmium yellow gouache, and I love the color, and I used the whole tube, and then someone told me the cadmium will kill you. So that's not good either. Now airbrush use eyelid. Yeah, exactly, Michael. That's it. Michael, what's up? Other Michael. It's happening. I'm sure Mendez has an original airbrush. He has a lot. Yeah, so it's on the shelf over there. I have a wall cup, which is, the one that was patented. It was the first commercially available airbrush that was actually sold back in the late 1800s. I know Gerald has a few of them, I think. Yep, a lot of fun. A lot of fun. I am super happy with the way this is coming out. All right, so Let's look at these clouds up here. I got to resolve this little strip of orange cloud. So it's pretty bright. Mine is not. Let me switch back real quick so you can see it. Mine has that, again, there's that green to cast. But you look at the image here, and it's like brilliant orange, almost reddish. So what I think I might do, I think I'll finish up these darker clouds first. I may respray that with some reddish. I'm not sure yet. They're going to get that bright like that, but it seems like it has a lot more red in it than the orange anyway. And mine is certainly green, so that's not going to work. So, all right. Yeah, we'll keep working on it. Now this is, again, this color is a little bit too red for this out here, but I'm going to kind of lightly float this in and base those clouds just to kind of get them started. I'll adjust them after, so I think that'll be a good idea. Nice, Pappy. Exactly. Michael's buffing. Awesome, Michael. Thanks for dropping in. Oh, I have something to show you guys too. Let's take a quick break. I'm just going to run over to the bench. I'll be right back. I'm going to zip you guys out so you can see the whole thing. I'm excited about this. Speaking of buffing. All right. So, and actually, Michael reminded me of it with buffing, but then also when you mentioned Gerald, that also reminded me of it. So again, this is my, back you guys up a little bit. So Honey's on. So Honey, I kind of did a sneak preview of one of the 543s. So this is going to be my my Soriyama robot pinup girl for my pal Al. But anyway, that's not really what I want to show you. What I wanted to show you was my 543 holder. So again, that's that Yupo paper. And I made this little holder for it. And what it is, I've shown this a million times. This is just a piece of sheet magnet, the kind of stuff they make the signs, the temporary signs that slap on the side of cars. So this, I've had this for a few years now. It's all beat up and cracked and covered with paint. And I just put photo corners on it. So I'm like, well, Marge is at school and they have a great metal shear at school. And I'm like, you know what? I got to upgrade this. I've used this so many times and it just, like right now, it's so worn and crunchy on the edges and it doesn't stick anymore. So it just falls down because it's not making contact anymore. So I knew I had to replace it. So I grabbed a piece of galvanized steel. I'm so excited about this. And I made a brandy new one, but this is Candy 2.0. So I still have to sand and buff this. This is the front side of it. And then the back side is just primed, and then I used UVLS gloss on it because what's going to happen is there'll be a sheet magnet attached to this side, so that when I put this on the bench, it's just gonna stick. And then I'll put the photo corners on it. There'll be a place for my business card again. Orange and blue are kind of like my company colors, so that I did this ground metal like Gerald, and yeah, it'll be ready to go. Plus, this is House of Color clear on here. So when it gets all painty and dirty and stuff, I could just take some rubbing alcohol and wipe it off, and it'll be back to this. So I'm super excited about this. I'm really excited about this. Plus, it's galvanized steel, so I want to do this carefully so I don't scratch it. But the magnets will stick right to it, so I can still use all the magnets with it, and it'll work great. And the magnets really stick hard to this too, unlike the other one, which didn't really. But isn't that neat? That's all. Like I said, I just grabbed some 60 grit paper and put a cool kind of a pattern on it. This is grabber orange and midnight blue, and I just faded between them, and that's what I got. So you'll see this. I'll show this Monday on my Facebook page, because that way I just cleared this yesterday, so I want to give it another day to really kind of set up before I sand it and polish it. But it should be pretty nice. But there you go. You guys get the preview of that. That Candy 2.0 is insane. I learned a bunch of stuff talking to Createx 2 about painting raw metal. So it's going to help a lot. I have a bunch of titanium that I really want to use again, but I was having a problem with the clear sticking to it. So I'm pretty sure Createx solved that for me, which is exciting as well. So I will share that prep and stuff as I go too. There we go. Da, 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 da. Thanks. Thanks. Yes, I'm super happy about that. I'm super, super, super happy. One of the things I miss about the old studio that I had in Boston is it was attached to a sign shop, and they have a 3 foot jump shear, which is basically like a 3 foot blade that you put a piece of metal in, and you can just you press this big foot pedal and it'll cut the metal to any size you want. I really love that thing. I know sooner or later I'll find one. They're getting tougher to find, and the new ones are garbage. Um, but I will find one, and I'll have it here because it's nice to be able to cut metal, perfectly like that. So they have one at Kent. That's where I was going with that. So I took advantage of Marge going to school and used their jump shear. Because I do a lot on aluminum too. It just works out really well. Donna, have a good one. I will see you. Wayne's stuff is on the way, Donna. So he knows that already because I sent him a message. All right, I think I'm going to do a little bit more on this. I think I might let you guys go. What we'll do is I'll just kind of mess with this color for the rest of the way out, and then I don't know. I'd like to get this to them over at Ampersand because they were kind in sending these little panels to me. But there's also, there's no time scale on it. So I might end up, yeah, why don't I do this? I'm not going to work on this anymore after this feed. I'll wait till next Thursday and we'll finish it next Thursday. So that way you guys can see the whole thing. It's not going to take too long for me to get it finished from this stage, but it's probably another hour in it anyway. So, instead of just kind of showing you the beginning again and then blasting through it and showing it to you when it's done, we'll just pick up where we left off on next Thursday. I will hopefully have that jet painting done by next Thursday anyway, but there is the outside chance that, I'll be finishing that up as well. If that's the case, that might be it too, but you get the idea. To give you a rough idea while I'm kind of still cutting all this in, what happens here on these clouds, really the only step left is to kind of go over with that bright orange, the one I told you I don't often use because I need something super bright. So I'll go over areas of this whole thing with the bright orange to kind of just, tone some of it down, but also have it really pop as well. It's kind of a nice compromise. And then after that is to reintroduce some really bright white spots and then tint those yellow to give that, well, I'll show you. So down on the lower left there, those clouds that are really like individual small dots and puffy. So those will be repainted in with white in the airbrush. And then I tint over the whole thing with yellow to get them to do that. So essentially, if I just keep picking away at this, I can carve some of them out of here. But it's nowhere near as effective as just putting a couple white dots in there and then just spraying over it with a little bit of yellow. It just they'll pop right out again. So that's kind of the marching order for the rest of the clouds here. And I have to resolve this guy up here. I have to respray that with some white and get that to pop out a little bit more. But I also think I need to darken that sky too. But we'll do all that. It'll be fun. And I got to fix that now because I let this brush sit, so just blast that. That's not good. So if the brush sits and I don't use it for a few minutes, the paint will start to set up in it and stuff like that will happen. But that's okay too. It's fine. We'll get through it. And I haven't had a chance to mention it. I'm sure by now the class is almost sold out, but if you're interested in getting some pretty amazing airbrush instruction and pinstripe instruction and general coolness, Nub Graphics and Mike Learn are putting on a guitar class in Walden, New York at the end of June. So that is going to be an amazing class. You actually get everything. You're building and painting a guitar. So by the end, when you leave, you actually get to take the guitar home with you. You get to take the airbrush home as well. You'll be using this airbrush here, which is a rich pen. It's the Mobro, so it's a 0.3 millimeter gravity feed brush. So you will get to keep this brush too. It's going to be an amazing time. I unfortunately am going to be, well, I'm hoping that I have an opening that weekend. I'm waiting to hear right now. But immediately following that weekend, we are bugging out for Wisconsin. So unfortunately, I won't be able to invade that class, but it's going to be good. Last I heard there was already, it's only 10 seats, and I heard half of them were sold out, and that was last week, so I'm sure that that's happening quick. It's going to be an amazing time. And for those who don't know, I mean, Nub is amazing. He was on TV for a long time, and Mike Learn has a resume that's longer than most people's driveways. Album covers from Megadeth, things like that. Mike's amazing. So to have the two of them there, and it's going to be a good time. All right. In fact, I was had I not been going away and have the opening, I was going to take the class because I have a guitar here that it's raw wood, and it would be amazing to have, Mike's input on that, because Mike will build guitars from scratch, so from just blocks of wood. So to have that kind of instruction would be amazing. So plus the two of them are hilarious, so it's going to be a good time. All right, so this is great. Now just kind of getting in, and I can really get in. Can I get you guys even closer? I don't think so. That's about as close as you can get. But you get the idea. I'm really just kind of digging in here now and getting those really, really tight, darker details down. And these details, these darker, tighter details, they're standing on top of the other softer, lighter paint that I already put down. So the nice thing is I don't have to develop the entire color with the detail. It's already standing on top of the color that it needs to be. So that makes it a lot easier to do these details. If I had to develop the color and the detail, like really just kind of build it up, it's a lot more difficult. Where if I'm just adding those details to colors that already are on there and existing, that makes it so much easier. So I'm also seeing that I have to intensify this yellow, which is also a good problem. So I'll hit this with like maybe the golden yellow to really like bring out that warmth in it. But again, these things kind of happen as the painting moves on. Those decisions kind of pop up as things are kind of developing, because everything is relative. You judge one color next to another, and when you add one color, sometimes it changes the color that's next to it. So there's a lot of that, but I'm really happy. It's flowing together well. So let me show you what I mean about the yellow. So take a look at mine. I'll tilt it so you get more of an accurate color on it. So there's mine. Now here's the original. So you can see how there's a lot more golden yellow. That yellow to the right is really bright yellow, like primary yellow, where if I switch back, my yellow is kind of really soft right there. That's where I'm looking. So that has to be much more intense yellow, which is fine. It's always easier to add than it is to subtract. But you start making these decisions. And then once I start rolling it with the orange, again, look at all the yellow that's going on in mine. And then when I switch back, especially in this area here, watch how much orange is going on there. It's a lot of orange, and that's great. All you have is the really tight details. But all that's coming. That's coming. That's how it works. All right. I'm going to switch cameras. I think I'm going to switch cameras. What am I doing? I am. There we go. That's what I got. All right. So thank you for joining me for this Thursday. You guys are awesome as always. Again, if you have any ideas for the feeds or Tech Tuesday or Open Studio, I've gotten some good suggestions, and I'm actually taking people up on those anyway. So, but if you do have a suggestion, if you'd like to see a painting from start to finish and it's a specific type, let me know. To let you know, a razor blade painting is coming next. So that was one of the big requests for Open Studio. So we'll do that for sure. Other than that, that's what I got. I'm going to keep rolling. I will catch up with you guys Monday. If you want more live abuse, come by Monday on Facebook. We do our live feed, and you can win a painting there as well. I am putting together the contest for the where is it? I am putting together the contest for the eclipse painting. So we're gonna give this painting away on YouTube as well. So we'll figure out that. I'm just kind of working out the logistics of that, but that'll be fun too. So that's what's going on. That's what I got. Thanks for coming by, everyone. You guys are the best. So I will catch you all next time. And for Steve Leahy and Thursday Live, I love you guys. And yeah, we'll catch you next time. You're going to see the reference image again because I didn't change it. So this is your closing screen.